प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित्सुखं परमहं सगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवैति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनम् पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति। हरि ओम। Suprabhat.
हरि ओम।
Hari Om, Hari Om.
We will chant from verses 58 to 62. Verse number 58 to 62 of chapter 2. Yada samharate chayam कूर्मोऽङ्गानीव सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता यदा संहरते चायं कूर्मोऽङ्गानीव सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते यततो ह्यपि कौन्तेय पुरुषस्य विपश्चितः इन्द्रियाणि प्रमाथीनि हरन्ति प्रसभं मनः यततो ह्यपि कौन्तेय पुरुषस्य विपश्चितः इन्द्रियाणि प्रमाथीनि हरन्ति प्रसभं मनः तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य युक्त आसीन मत्परः वशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य युक्त आसीत मत्परः वशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता ध्यायते विषयान् पुंसः सङ्गस्तेषुपजायते सङ्गात् सञ्जायते कामान् क्रोधभिजायते ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः सङ्गस्तोषुपजायते सङ्गात् सञ्जायते कामः कामात् क्रोधभिजायते। Okay. He who is everywhere without attachment, who having met good and evil neither rejoices nor hates, his wisdom is established. We are continuing with the qualities, the description of a person of enlightenment, a person of evolution, a spiritually evolved person, not someone who is away from the din and roar of the marketplace. Instead, here he describes such a person as he who is everywhere be it a temple or a nightclub, be it in solitude or in the din and roar of the marketplace, anywhere. There's no taboo of being one way or another. It's not about how you are outside, it's about how you are inside. So, he who is everywhere without attachment, without a sense of clinging, sense of mindness, and without the delusion that this is mine and this will forever be mine, this will last forever. Detachment manifests as a freedom from mindness and objectivity, seeing things as they are, as passing, transient, ephemeral. Nothing is permanent. The wisdom of that comes through detachment. So when you attach yourself to something higher, something more significant, more important, you develop this objectivity to the lower. You develop this capacity to see things as they are. And once you achieve that state, you can have anything you want. The paradox is, the irony is that you'll not want or need anything after you reach that state. You can't create FOMO and sell a property to a detached person. So the paradox is that once you're at that state, you don't need anything. But you're capable of possessing everything. You can be the king of the world. Quite literally. And which is why we had a tradition of Raja Rishis. Raja Rishis means king sages. Kings who were meant to be sages. Sages who were meant to be kings. The idea is that this knowledge is meant for you to deal with your possessions. And if you are able to imbibe this knowledge, then you can possess whatever you have, whatever you want. In fact, the more you possess, the more you need this knowledge to be able to manage it, to be able to handle it, to be able to serve it. You have to be a trustee of those things that are under your possession and those people that are under your guardianship. How can you be a trustee? You need this knowledge for that purpose. So enlightenment, evolution does not mean you are away from the world, does not mean you are far removed from things and responsibilities. Yes, to gain the knowledge, to study, to elevate yourself, you may need to find some time, some place, some period of solitude, because it's not possible to study and gain this knowledge with too many distractions. That's the reason we meet early in the morning, because there's not too many distractions. Your mind is relatively clear before the rush of the day begins. That's why a sadhak goes to an ashram. An ashram is a refuge, because that is a time when a sadhak needs to gain knowledge. And in the din and roar of the marketplace, with so many other distractions and temptations, it's rarely possible. It's still possible, but it's impractical to expect someone to be able to immerse themselves so deeply into this. So for a period of time, just like a scientist will retreat into the solitude of the laboratory, an ashram is a laboratory where a sadhak will retreat to gain this knowledge. You will find a peaceful time to gain this knowledge. But having gained it, you can be anywhere, you can be anyone, you can possess anything, you can enjoy anything. Quite literally. So he who is everywhere without attachment, one who understands things as they are, one who sees everything as a manifestation, expression of their gunas, and as a result of that objectivity, as a result of that wisdom, neither hates nor clings. There is no attachment or aversion. There is no preferential liking or disliking, because they see it as it is. Preferential liking and disliking comes with mindness. When you think something as yours, you'll really want to see only the good in it. You'll be blind to the bad in it. or you'll want to project it greater than it actually is. You'll want to give it more affection than another. There'll be a unequal treatment. There'll be an unequal um, um, feeling towards that object or being. So that comes through attachment. But when you're detached, you see it as it is. The world is an admixture of good and evil. It's always going to be there. It's always been there. It's always going to be there. Everything is helplessly expressing its vastness. Good would have no meaning without evil. Evil has no meaning without good. Everything is, you assess it and you plan how to deal with it, but you don't judge it. That's what he means. That having met good and evil, neither rejoices nor hates. There's no dvesha, there's no strong feeling of judgment and rejection. Resist not others, judge not evil, said Jesus Christ. Right? So, are there any questions to what we have covered so far? Then we'll jump to the next verse.
So you're often saying that there should not be mindness and you should have no preferential interaction with anyone. So give an example. How can you have that in your daily life? How can you not have any preferential uh, liking or disliking or preferential relation with anyone or not?
I'll correct you. I didn't say you should have or shouldn't have.
Okay.
Vedanta refrains from saying you should or shouldn't have. You do you. Yatha ichhasi tatha kuru. It says when you're detached, you will not have. When you're detached, you will not have mindness. You will not have preferential treatment. It also says that it is your mindness, it is your preferential attachment that is the cause of your suffering. So it simply says these two statements and it gives you an analysis of it. Why your attachment is the cause of your suffering. Right? Now you decide whether you want to go down the path of knowledge and lift yourself. Once you gain knowledge, you will see things as they are. You will not have a sense of mindness. Once you have knowledge, you'll see everybody is simply on their own journey. And I am playing a part, a role, a temporary role in their journey. You'll see it with such objectivity. When you have that clarity, there won't be mindness. Huh? Khalil Gibran said, your children are not your children. They come through you. They're not yours. Right? Famous words of Khalil Gibran. That's what he means. Now, when you understand that, there won't be mindness. We're not saying you shouldn't have mindness. We're not making it moralistic, right? But you have to study and understand why this mindness is the cause of your suffering. In fact, the more mindness you'll have, the more things will be repulsed from you. The more you cling to something, the more it will run away from you.
So absolutely you're correct that mindness leads to suffering. But then how you, just by knowledge, you can't get away with mindness. No, you have the knowledge that mindness leads to suffering. You've seen, now you, as a drashta, you say, you understand, you have understood now. हाँ देखो यहाँ attachment करते हैं तो खुशी मिलता है लेकिन साथ साथ suffering भी मिलता है. You've understood this. You have not, as a drashta also, you have, as a sakshi, have understood this.
You've perhaps understood intellectually the lower, but you have not grabbed the higher. Okay. The penny hasn't dropped. So when I say knowledge, I don't mean an intellectual understanding, and I keep repeating this. It's not an intellectual understanding. You have to develop an affinity for the higher to get to get detached from the lower. So you understand the mechanics of this knowledge as it pertains to the world, right? So per se, an intellectual understanding of that will not detach you from this. You have to get an affinity for the higher. Do you have an affinity for the mystery? Do you have an affinity for enlightenment or evolution? Right? Have you risen above material, physical, emotional to intellectual, to spiritual? So we understand mechanically the emotional and physical and material predicaments of mindness, but we haven't quite grasped the higher, right? So when we focus on that, automatically we'll get a. That's when the penny will truly drop, right? And it won't. How to, he's going to say it in the next couple of verses. He says that your relish, your affinity will still remain for the lower until you hit enlightenment. So it's a slow, gradual process, but you have to grab the higher rung, then the lower rung falls.
And grabbing the higher will come through knowledge, and
Huh?
grabbing the higher will
Huh?
come through knowledge and
No, it is not just uh, intellectual knowledge, understanding. Karma, bhakti, jnana. It's a integrated journey. It's an integrated journey, and you have to literally bring this knowledge to a gross level of converting it into your actions, in your relationships, in your treatment with others, in the way in which you um, manage your house and your business. That's basic karma, right?
It starts with your karmas, basically your actions.
Your actions.
Starts with that.
So karma, bhakti, and awareness of the splash of divinity, a reminder of the splash of divinity all around you. And jnana is a constant discrimination between what is real and what is unreal, what is permanent and what is impermanent, a focus on that, an emphasis on that. So it's an integrated journey. It's not just um, an intellectual study of these scriptures. So whenever we speak of that, whenever we speak of this, we speak of the integrated journey. Whenever I say knowledge, right, when you understand this knowledge, I mean collectively the effects of karma, bhakti, jnana. I know of no other way. I know of no other way.
सर वो अवेयरनेस ऑफ द डिविनिटी खाली स्प्लैश में आता है, वो आता नहीं अदरवाइज।
वो आता है जब भी आप याद दिलाते हो।
और या फिर आपके पास ऊपर तकलीफ आती है तो, और या फिर बहुत ज्यादा आपके ऊपर अगर कृपा होती है तो।
करेक्ट। थोड़ी सी लिफ्ट करने से हमें अवेयरनेस नहीं होती, बहुत ज्यादा लिफ्ट होता है तो हमें अवेयरनेस होती है। उम्मीद पे दुनिया कायम है। अब भगवान बोल गए और कोई नहीं सुना, राइट? भगवान बोल गए और कोई नहीं सुना, तो बट अगर आप में सुनने की थोड़ी रुचि भी है तो कंसिडर योर सेल्फ एज blessed. What else can I say? But I know of no other way besides karma, bhakti, jnana. अगर और कुछ पता लगे तो मेरे ज़रूर बताना। और कुछ पता लगे तो मुझे ज़रूर बताना। But this is tried, tested, slow, gradual, but steady. Slow and steady, but sure. It's a sure path. And this is not me saying it. This is in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, "I guarantee you, I guarantee you, I guarantee you." Ananya Shintayanto Mam, I guarantee you. So, what else could be, the what higher guarantee would you need? That this is a sure and steady path. You have to dive into it in totality. Hanji, Prachi.
Yes, so in this verse, it said that, he whose wisdom is established, having met good or evil, neither rejoices nor hates. So, a person of steady wisdom, what does he see as good and what is evil for him? Is it a objective, like sort of difference there, or is it relative? And yeah, because also in line of verse 57, Guruji basically describes evil as, vasanas. So in that state, like, what is basically good?
Correct. So, there are various explanations or interpretations to this, right? On the one hand, on a basic level, good can mean unselfish, evil can mean selfish, right? So your selfishness leads you to be vicious, leads you to be harmful, leads you to be a burden on others. Your unselfishness leads you to be graceful, leads you to be a source of support and strength to others, right? It spreads a positiveness around you. So good means unselfishness, evil means selfishness. The more numerous and the more vasanas you have, you will likely be selfish, right? Because what are vasanas? Vasanas are nothing but a force, right? And the stronger the force, the more helpless you are, right? Vasanas manifest as thoughts, thoughts grow into desires, desires manifest forcefully as actions. The more numerous and forceful the vasanas are, the more helpless you will be in your actions. You'll do things without control, without you sometimes even if you don't want to do it, or some part of your mind says you shouldn't do it, right? So those with too many vasanas tend to be uncontrolled in their thoughts, desires, and consequently actions, and they tend to cross the Lakshman Rekha, as it were, right? They tend to be evil, they tend to be selfish, they tend to be, to an extent of fulfilling their own wishes and desires, they tend to harm others as well, right? So, too many vasanas means you're an uncontrolled personality. So you're quote unquote evil. As you control, regulate, moderate, reduce your vasanas through sadhana, automatically goodness accrues in you because you become steady, controlled, regulated, moderated. You can give yourself a direction, a high direction, right? So, in that sense, a person with too many vasanas is evil. The person who has evolved and improved the quality of their vasanas, reduce the quantity of their vasanas. Improve the quality from tamas to rajas to sattva. And the more refined something is, the lesser it is in quantity, right? So then goodness will radiate through you. But one who sees good and evil and just sees it as a play of vasanas, sees it as a play of the temperaments, right? Goodness is nothing but a predominance of sattva. Evil is nothing but a predominance of tamas. And everybody is just expressing their nature. And everybody is in a flux of change. It's in a flux of change. Okay, it's highly unlikely that if you're very sattvic, you'll immediately become tamasic. But if you slip, there are chances. It's not guaranteed. If you get carried away, there are chances you can slowly, gradually devolve, and it's a slippery slope. Similarly, if you work on yourself, it's not that you'll become sattvic overnight, but if you're tamasic, but you have zeal to work on yourself with consistent and constant effort, you can change over a period of time. And again, the graph is exponential, means initially the progress will be slow and then will grow. So a person of wisdom sees that this is possible. Everybody is helplessly, to a large extent, helplessly expressing themselves. Just like you and I are expressing ourselves helplessly. So many times we do things, our mind takes over, right? So rare is the person who's completely sattvic and controlled. But everybody is in their own journey and everybody is a flux of change. When such a person has such a perspective, tasya prajna pratishtita. Such a person's wisdom is established. Such a person has understood, has gained this objective view of the world. Hanji, does that answer your question?
Yeah. So this person, he should necessarily know what it is to be sattvic, right? So he has achieved sattva to some extent.
Indeed. I mean, prajna
And the more,
pratishtita. Wisdom is established only when you reach a highly sattvic state, no doubt. No doubt. Hanji, Omji, you were saying something.
हरिओम उत्सव जी,
Hariom.
जो बोलना था वो आपने बोल भी दिया है, पर फिर भी मैं बोलना चाहूँगा कि देखिए, ये हम जो आज हैं, ये हम जन्मों जन्मों से अच्छा बुरा करते आए हैं, सीखते आए हैं, नहीं सीखते आए हैं। एक दिन में हम ये लेक्चर सुन के हमको प्रज्ञा नहीं आ जाएगी, हमको श्रद्धा रखनी पड़ेगी। और शनै शनै जैसे आपने बोला है, शनै शनै बहुत कुछ हो जाता है, श्रद्धा से ही बहुत कुछ हो जाता है। धीरे 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 मना धीरे सब कुछ होए, माली सींचे 100 गड़ा, रूता है फल होए। तो ये तो होने वाला ही है। हम लोग सोचते हैं कि जल्दी जल्दी एक आपका लेक्चर सुना और प्रज्ञा हो गई हमारे को, कुछ भी नहीं होता। इतने जन्मों का पाप धोना है हमारे को, तो टाइम तो लगेगा ही। और खाली श्रद्धा रखे, श्रद्धावान लभते ज्ञानम, ये तो आप बोलते ही हैं। तो बस मैं उतना ही बोलना चाहता हूँ, मेरे को तो और कुछ आता है।
अब आप तो मेरे से सुन रहे हो, मैंने तो अपने गुरु से सुना है और उनके आदेश से भी कितना बदला है वो आप नहीं जानते हो, मैं जानता हूँ। सो बदलने में समय लगता है, नो डाउट अबाउट इट। बट एज आई सेड कि यू हैव टू ग्रैब द हायर, देन ओनली द लोअर विल फॉल, राइट? दैट्स द बेसिक। एंड ग्रैब मीन्स पकड़ लो उसको पकड़ो, ना कि उसको देखो, अप्रिशिएट करो। When you grab the higher, you will detach from the lower. That's the only way. Okay, verse number 58. Yada samharate chayam kurmonganiva sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. Yada samharate chayam कूर्मोऽङ्गानीव सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणि इन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. When like a tortoise, कूर्मः, when like a tortoise drawing in its limbs on all sides, he withdraws his senses from sense objects, then his wisdom is established. So out here he gives a metaphor, an analogy rather, of a tortoise. So in describing a person, how does he act in the world? How does he conduct himself in the world? How does he function in the world? How does he act? He gives a beautiful analogy of a tortoise. A tortoise is one with a hard shell. First of all, a tortoise is slow and steady. A tortoise doesn't expect things to change overnight. A tortoise is slow and steady. I'm glad we got this example at this juncture. So a tortoise is slow and steady, but most importantly, a tortoise has a shell with which it protects itself. At the sign of any danger, it withdraws its limbs, isn't it? I don't know if you've seen tortoises. Back in the day, when we used to go to the zoo in school trips, that's the only time I saw a tortoise. Otherwise, we don't see tortoises. But I'm sure people will know that a tortoise has the capacity to withdraw into the shell, and the shell is a protective layer. It protects the tortoise from uncontrolled situations outside. and that comes from an awareness of the dangers of the outside. So similarly, a person who is evolved doesn't have the arrogance of evolution. A person who is evolved because they understand what to stay away from and what to quote. A person who is evolved understands what to allow, what to not allow. In chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, he'll say, a person who knows what to fear and what not to fear is sattvic, right? It's not that you should just because he said in the previous verse that you can be anywhere doesn't mean you should go everywhere, right? You should be conscious of what is detrimental for you. You should be conscious of what is useful for you. The world is constantly bombarding you with attractions, with promises of enjoyment, with the need for acquisition. The world is constant advertisement, and it's only going to get worse. Okay, my cousin is in the advertisement world, performance marketing. It's only going to get worse. Every bit of data they get of yours, their targeting is getting more and more advanced, and they know exactly what you are and what will make you tick onto that next thing to buy online. Since you're not going to the market, they're bringing the market to you. The world is only going to get more and more tantalizing, right? Do you have the capacity to withdraw yourself when you don't need something or when something is not good for you? That only comes with a buddhi. That only comes with a buddhi with which you think, reason, judge, decide, assess. Think, assess, reason, judge, decide. That's the role of your buddhi. So the tortoise, the shell of the tortoise is the buddhi. The limbs of the tortoise, the head and the tail, there are 6 protruding parts of a tortoise. The 4 limbs, the head and the tail, they collectively represent the 5 senses and the mind. You can say the 4 legs and the tail are the senses and the head is the mind. Now the head, the senses and the mind are constantly at the mercy of the world. They're constantly exposed to the world and they're being bombarded. Senses are being bombarded with sense gratifications. The mind is being bombarded with emotional attractions and cajoling. Do you have the capacity to step back and see things for what they are? Otherwise, you'll constantly be in FOMO. I also want this. These people are getting this. Oh, everybody's talking about this. Why do you need it? If you have FOMO, then right now they're talking about Gurgaon property prices, it being a bubble. If you had FOMO, you would have bought a lot of property in Gurgaon. Why? Everybody's buying it. Let's buy. Do you have a capacity to think outside, step outside and think? What do you need? So the world is constantly going to tantalize you. You should fear that. Now, fear doesn't mean you get worried and anxious. Fear means you should be cautious. And when you are cautious, you withdraw. I don't need this. I don't need this advertisement. I don't need this distraction. I don't need this temptation. Get thee behind me, Satan. So that capacity, that awareness, when one has such an awareness with a strong buddhi, tasya prajna pratishtita, then their wisdom is established. So a person of spiritual evolution is one with a strong buddhi, a strong intellect, with which they deliberately, consciously live their life, contact what is needed, refrain and restrain themselves from what is not needed. Right? See, it's not a challenge. He doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. Oh, I can be everywhere without attachment. Just because he said in the previous verse, he is everywhere without attachment, doesn't mean you have to prove to the world, oh, I can be everywhere without attachment. No. What is beneficial for you or what is needed for you, you participate in with awareness. What is not needed for you, you step away from. It could be material attractions, a great deal, a tantalizing deal. We can promise you X amount of return. Great stock, multi-bagger. Weakness. Sensual enjoyment. Emotional enjoyment. See, the stakes get higher. You think material is the worst? No, it gets higher. There are more and more tantalizing things, right? The capacity to be objective in relationships, it's so important. It's no hidden secret. Pretty much everyone has a problem in their relationships. Huh? Some of us get to hear more and in more detail, but everyone knows someone or is talking to helping someone out with problems in their relationships. Why? Because people don't know when to participate, when to withdraw. And in their attachment, they completely lose their capacity to be independent thinkers. It's very difficult to explain. But can you be an independent thinker? Can you think clearly for yourself what you need, what you don't need? It only comes with the buddhi. So, like a tortoise drawing its limbs means a total consciousness of the world around them, the impact of it, the effect of it. Such a person, their wisdom is established. Verse 59. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. The sense objects, Vishaya, Vinivartante, Niraharasya Dehina. The sense objects turn away from an abstinent man, but not the relish. Even his relish turns away upon seeing the Supreme. Very interesting verse. So, we are talking about, in the last couple of verses, we are talking about the need to be conscious, the need to be able to be objective and see the world as it is, because the world has its own set of attractions, and the mind is very powerful. The mind is very powerful. If it gets sucked into any of these attractions, it's very difficult to control the mind. It's almost impossible to control the mind. The thoughts of the mind are equated to a ball rolling down a flight of stairs. It's equated to a ball. Your thoughts are equated to a ball bouncing down a flight of stairs. The first time you bounce it, it'll be near you. Maybe the second bounce, it'll still be near you. Third bounce, it'll get a little out of reach, but you can still grab it. Fourth bounce, you'll really have to struggle. Chances are you'll hurt yourself. After that, forget it. So your thoughts are like this bouncing ball. First thought, second thought, third thought, means flow of thought. As the flow of thought thickens, it becomes very difficult to control. You get into patterns of thinking, you get into ways of being, you get into emotional attachments, entanglements. That's why it's called entanglement. What is samsara? Why is it called terrestrial entanglement? Because it's very difficult after a point to disentangle. You're tying so many knots, mental knots. So the mind is extremely powerful, the senses are extremely powerful. The world is designed in such a way. Your senses are designed in such a way. It's by design. There's nothing right or wrong. The senses will be attracted to sense objects. And in fact, the sense objects have been created for you to enjoy. Along with the senses, you've also been given a buddhi. Along with your senses, you've also been given a buddhi to control, regulate, moderate, measure how much you should enjoy, how much you should abstain. Problem is people use their senses, but they don't use their buddhi. Right? We only use half the gifts given to us. So it's not that the sense objects are bad, senses are bad, you shouldn't enjoy things, you shouldn't participate in things. But you should understand the underlying power of the sense objects. Right? If you don't control and regulate and moderate your senses and your mind, it'll go out of control. And you'll have weaknesses, you'll have ailments, all sorts of things. However, beautifully he says, the sense objects turn away from an abstinent man. If you practice abstinence means regulation, moderation, a sense of restraint. If you work towards putting in restrictions, if you develop a goal that I want to work on something and you actually act towards it, the more you help yourself in being restrained, the sense objects turn away from an abstinent man. Means automatically half their power is taken away.
They will not look at the Gurgaon roads. The Gurgaon roads.
Indeed. This is symbolized by the power of the senses is symbolized by Vali in the Ramayana. You know, Vali's unique capabilities was that if you came in front of him, your power would become half. Your strength would become half. That's why Vali was the king, because your capacity to fight itself would be diminished. Your capacity to fight him. So Vali represents the senses. In front of the senses, in front of sense attractions, your capacity to think becomes half. You get carried away. That's the symbolism. However, if you pitch up a goal and work towards it, if you develop a spirit of abstinence, restraint, then the sense objects, their power diminishes. The contrary is true. They turn away from an abstinent man. I don't know any better way to explain this than explaining it at a physical level. You exercise, your cravings will reduce immediately. If you don't exercise, you'll crave, you'll want to indulge, you'll want to have junk, you'll overeat, all sorts of problems. But if you develop a regimen for exercise, your craving will reduce, and you experience it, you try it. It happens. Of course, not perfect, but it turns away from you, means that attraction reduces. Right? So if you help yourself on the journey, if you develop a spirit of abstinence, a spirit of regulation and restraint, the power of the sense objects reduce. The influence reduces upon you. They seem less attractive almost. As you control, your capacity to control increases. That's what he's saying. However, not the relish. That's another interesting thing he says. Their attraction reduces, but their relish, rasa, doesn't go. Means the appetite, the taste. A person who's practiced abstinence from drinking for years and months, because they have practiced this abstinence, the attraction of drinks would have reduced significantly, but they'll still remember, oh, that 15-year scotch. And don't look at me, I don't drink scotch. I'm only mimicking how people talk. Okay. Never understood it. I consider myself lucky because we save a lot of money. For starters, most people, half their money is spent on partying and in such indulgences. I mean, nothing, again, we're not being moralistic about it. It's not right or wrong. But at least you save money. I am a Marwadi after all, right? So the senses turn away from an abstinent man, but not the relish, the taste of it, the taste of your enjoyments remain, which means that the moment you let go, it will return. If you slip on your path of abstinence, if you slip on your path of restraint, you always have the chance of. You all have so many experiences in your life. I have also many experiences in my life. When I was a child, they used to say I used to drink more Pepsi than water. Because my grandfather had a Pepsi cold storage. He used to be a distributor of Pepsi. So my gift from my Nana's house used to be a crate of Pepsi. So they used to say I used to drink more Pepsi than water. I can tell you this. There have been years I've gone without drinking Pepsi. And there was a phase in my life, 3-4 years, I didn't drink Pepsi at all. Ashram time also, I didn't drink Pepsi at all much. But the rasa remained. So, if you practice abstinence, if you practice restraint, if you get onto a path and a higher goal, then automatically lower attractions and entanglements will become less tantalizing. That's the best way you can help yourself. But not the relish. The relish, the taste of it will remain. So if you slip, it will come back. However, he says, even the relish turns away upon seeing the Supreme. When you reach the Supreme, when you reach the ultimate goal, when the penny drops, when you grow up, as it were, then the relish also goes away. It's like saying, now you've grown up into an adult, even the relish for games and toys is gone. You don't even value it. Yeah, you remember it as some distant enjoyment, but now you have grown up. Because you have grown up, you have enlightened, you have gained enlightenment. So spiritually speaking, when you attain enlightenment, then 100% sense attraction relish will go away. Up until then, yes, you'll be very controlled, you'll be very restrained, but still the relish will remain. So this is also a word of caution to all seekers, that when you're on the path, you cannot be complacent. You cannot become complacent, right? Because the moment you slip, it will come back. So, sense objects turn away from an absent man. Equally, though, this is important, that if you help yourself, then the power of the sense objects will reduce, right? Anybody complaining, I am not able to control my diet, it's because you're not pitching a goal. You don't have a serious goal. The moment you have a serious goal, it will be controlled. Sense objects turn away from an abstinent man. Verse number 60. Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. So, the turbulent senses, the senses are extremely turbulent. He says, O Kaunteya, the turbulent senses of even a wise man, while striving, indeed forcibly carry away his mind. He's trying to impress upon Arjuna the power of the senses, let alone the power of the mind. Here Arjuna is in a state where his mind is being carried away. He's saying even the senses are extremely turbulent. A wise man also, one who has put in a lot of work to develop a restraint, even such a person is subject to being carried away by their force. And what happens? The senses are so powerful, they carry away the mind. Your mind becomes completely entangled. Your mind begins to justify and crave the sense attractions. So the senses are so powerful that they carry away your mind and destabilize your intellect. This is the symbolism of the chariot. The chariot is the individual. The chariot represents the individual. And in an individual, in a chariot, in the original chariot, there were 5 horses, not 4. There were 5 horses. The 5 horses represent the senses. The senses are what take you from one place to another. Right? It's the senses that carry you from one place to another. So the senses are needed, no doubt. And the senses are tied to reins. The reins are your mind. So they're connected. And holding the reins is the charioteer, the sarathi. That's your buddhi. The role of the charioteer is to control the reins, the mind, and regulate the horses, the senses, to move around. So that symbolizes the individual. That's the role of all these 3 equipments. They all have a role. Your mind has a role of beautiful emotions, but they have to be held by the buddhi. Your senses have a role of taking you from place to place, but they have to be regulated. Now, if the horses are uncontrolled, if the sarathi is not holding the reins, what happens? The horses will drag the reins, as it were, and lead the chariot to danger, eventual destruction. So that symbolism of the chariot, that the sarathi has to play the most pivotal role of holding onto the reins. That's the role of the buddhi, to be aware of your thoughts and emotions, to develop restraint, to regulate and moderate your life. If you achieve that, all is well. You can enjoy whatever you want. You can participate in anything you want. The problem is that we lack this buddhi. So whatever our senses begin to enjoy, whatever our mind begins to enjoy, we get completely carried away by them. That turbulence makes us completely attached, addicted. What are addictions? Addictions are nothing but uncontrolled indulgence. That's all it is. Where you've enjoyed something to a point where you are helplessly contacting it, and there's no capacity in you to think and restrain. That's what an indulgence is. An addiction is. Right? It's reached, of course, that's an extreme example, but it's reached a state where your psychology is also compromised. Your physiology is already compromised, your psychology is also compromised. That's addiction. But even before you reach that state, we all experience it, right? In a more benign form. So it's very important that you have a consciousness of your thoughts. A consciousness of your thoughts. And don't allow thoughts to swell beyond control. He's building up to a very important thought in verse number 62 and 63. That's why he's, this subject is, a continuous topic of 7 or 8 verses. So she's building up to this idea that you have to be conscious of your thoughts. Otherwise, the turbulent senses will forcibly carry away the mind. Even educated people will make rookie mistakes. Even at socially unacceptable ages, people will do things which they shouldn't be doing. I don't need to elaborate. Everyone knows what is happening in society. Adi Shankaracharya says that age is gone, but the band of desires goes not. He describes, you're a toothless man, you have patches of hair, wrinkled skin, but still you entertain all sorts of desires in your mind. So now we are trying anti-aging techniques. See, we understood Adi Shankaracharya. So you said, yes, Shankaracharya ji, I'm going to do something. I'm going to not age. At 70, I'm going to look like I'm 35. Nothing wrong in that, right? But people do it as a justification of, I want to be young and I want to still entertain my youthful desires. The world is going down that route, and it's no surprise. In fact, the richest of people are investing in this to maintain their youth. We don't have to, in every culture, even in Greek mythology, there's so much of symbolism of, the fallacy of immortality. Anyway, people want to live forever, let them live forever. Let's see what they do. So age grows, but your desires don't leave. The senses are turbulent. They make you do things, they force your mind into things which perhaps are not apt. Again, I'm trying to not be moralistic out here, but it's not suitable for this life. Is an opportunity for you to grow and grow above. That's what the purpose of this life is. Ashramas, the four ashramas: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha. The purpose of grihastha is to grow into vanaprastha, not to elongate grihastha. So people are trying to resist vanaprastha. The rare person even thinks about sannyas. So in this tradition, we talk about 4 stages: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. That's the purpose of your life, to grow into the ultimate state of sannyas. Physiologically, life takes us that way. We're trying to resist that. Mentally, we don't go that way. Mentally, we are 70 but still cling into grihasti. Your time in grihasti is an opportunity for you to grow and grow above. To grow, enjoy within boundaries, within dharma. Enjoy artha and kama within the boundaries of dharma. And then ultimately seek moksha. But the uncontrolled turbulent senses, they're very powerful. So be conscious, be cautious of them. One last verse, because next class I'm going to start with 62 and 63. Verse number 61. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratisthita. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratisthita. Having controlled them all, controlled the senses and the mind, like the tortoise, he should sit focused on me as supreme. His wisdom is established indeed, whose senses are under control. So, one who sits with senses under control in the seat of meditation, that's the purpose. That's what we just talked about. That the purpose of life is to grow from grihastha to vanaprastha. In vanaprastha, you begin to let everything else go and sit focused upon the supreme, upon meditation. You turn meditative. You turn contemplative. Ultimately, sannyas is that deep state of meditation. So having control all the senses, you should sit focused upon the supreme. Then you have understood the purpose of life. Then you have understood what all of this is meant for. Then your wisdom is established. So this is all answering Arjuna's question. Who is a spiritually evolved person? One who is everywhere but detached. One who is enjoying the things of the world but with a sense of restraint, because they have controlled their senses and their thoughts are upon heaven. They are focused on the higher. They are meditative. That's the description of a perfect person. And that's what you have to attain. And you have the capacity to attain. You and I. That's our purpose out here. Not to remain in the oscillating and entangling sensual enjoyments and emotional entanglements. No. This opportunity of life is a chance to grow and grow above. Right? So, having controlled the senses, sit focused on me. He's talking about meditation. He's talking about contemplation. Such a person, his wisdom is established. We've told you unending times that meditation is not the start, it's the culmination of the journey. It means you have to evolve to qualify for meditation. But yes, you have to be conscious that that's the goal. You have to reach the seat of meditation. That's the purpose of sadhana. That's the purpose of all of this, right? With that thought, we'll conclude and we'll start with verse number 62, 63 in the next class. Yes, Gaurav, you have a question.
So if I read verse number 59 with conjunction to verse number 61, in 59 he says that even his relish turns away on seeing the Supreme. And if we see 61, it says, in order to control him, he should sit focused on me as Supreme. तो सर एक तरफ तो वो मतलब ये
No, he's not saying in order to control them. He's saying having controlled them. Having controlled them, he should sit focused on me. वो सब कंट्रोल करके कर्म भक्ति ज्ञान के द्वारा through sadhana, reducing the bulk of your desires, reducing the bulk of your distractions, gaining a control, having gained control over the senses, one should sit focused on the Supreme. Right? You cannot meditate to become controlled. We always say you don't meditate to become a controlled person. You don't meditate to gain peace. When you are peaceful, when you are controlled, when you are restrained, you meditate. And that's not my opinion. That's what exactly he's saying out here. Having controlled, then sit focused on me. So the real work is up to the seat of meditation. The real work is in the sadhana of karma bhakti jnana, where you improve the quality of your desires, shift the direction of your desires, reduce the quantity of your desires.
The more the real work is to develop our intellect.
Indeed, and the way you do that is through the buddhi. The buddhi is the key to all three sadhanas. You need the buddhi. People think, oh, you need the buddhi only for jnana yoga. No, you need the buddhi in karma, to do or not to do, to be or not to be. That's the question. You need a buddhi to be able to decide that. You need the buddhi in bhakti. It is the buddhi that surrenders. The mind doesn't have the capacity to surrender. The buddhi is the one that draws you to surrender. So the buddhi is very important in your sadhana. Okay, with that thought, we'll conclude and we'll see you in the next class next Tuesday. We'll start with verse number 62 and 63. Very beautiful verses, very important verses. So if I were you, I'll not miss next class. Thank you so much and see you next week.
Hari Om, sir.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.